winner Mariska Hargitay has entered. Thank you. Everyone loves her.
Yeah.
She's been Captain Olivia Benson on my favorite show, Law and Order SVU. It's the only thing I ever watched, that and Law and Order.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's now taking a turn behind the camera, directing My Mom Jayne, a New York Times critic picked documentary about her legendary mother, actress Jayne Mansfield. Watch the little clip.
Jayne Mansfield and Mickey Hargitay have just left this American Airlines plane. A huge crowd has gathered.
Jayne Mansfield has leaped from total obscurity to one of the most publicized stars of the present day.
Today, she was signed to a long-term movie contract by 20th Century Fox. At the moment, she is also the most photographed woman in show business.
Please welcome back to the show, Mariska Hargitay.
Overwhelming request for tickets for
Yes.
this show.
Yes,
Because people are incredibly excited.
Thanks all. So nice. Hi.
It's great to see you.
I'm so happy to be back.
You look
Yes.
wonderful. You
Thank
haven't
you.
aged a minute.
I'm Benjamin Buttons.
So you directed this documentary, which I just watched. It's so good, about your late mother, Jayne Mansfield. And for anyone who doesn't really know Hollywood history, Jayne was a talented actress and great beauty in the 50s and 60s. She was also one of the most famous and photographed women of her time. But she wasn't born into that world. She was not. So tell us how it all started.
Wow. But no, wow, okay. She was from Bryn Mawr, and then she moved to Texas as a young girl, and her family was very musical. Her father played the violin and the piano, and her mother was a piano teacher and an organ teacher, and so she started playing violin from a very, very young age, and I think the whole family thought that she was going to be a classical violinist. And
It's so opposite of what we thought of Jayne, that she played the violin, she spoke French, Italian, and Hungarian.
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. And she
English.
And
English.
English, of course, but
And,
she gave
and
out
English well.
her presentation was a sex bomb, and yet brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's also so interesting because you use the word presentation, and she was Southern, right?
Yeah.
From Texas, and it's a very specific kind of Southern. But I remember, even as a kid, my grandmother was rigorous in teaching us manners. And so much so that I remember how she made us even answer the phone. I remember, because I was born in LA, and you know, my parents
How were you supposed to answer the phone?
Oh, this is real talk. She would say, my grandmother would say, I would say, Pierce residence. Who may I ask is calling? One moment, please.
Yeah.
With the intonation. And I remember as a kid going, really? Why? Why can't I say hello? Who's calling? Hold on a sec.
You know, Joy got fired as a receptionist. She could have used tips from the
Oh my God.
She did.
I might have been fired too as a receptionist. But I'll tell you, I remember it made me crazy because I thought, like, I understand being polite, but don't be fake. I don't know. It was a thing. And so it was very interesting as I embarked on making this film and seeing how respectful and polite and accommodating my mother was. And it was upsetting to me, too, because when people were not respectful, that she was so demure and took it and polite, where you would go, excuse me? Don't talk to me like that. So it was quite a journey.
So Mariska, before I ask your question, I just have to say, this was one of the most life-changing documentaries I have ever watched.
She's been about it.
I've been a mess all morning. I ambushed her at the door and security had to stop me.
Cry.
Yeah, because I had questions. But I will capture it like this. anyone that watches this will fall in love with you and your family. They will come to see who all those family members are, and they're amazing. The directing ability of this is fascinating, because so many people try to direct, and that is the one thing that got me, was the way you unfold this very complicated life story. And personal. And third, everyone will see themselves in this documentary. And you will see the one thing.
That's the most meaningful part.
Well, and your mom, everyone knows who she was, and as you said, blonde, I knew all those things. What I didn't know is her violin playing when she tried to reclaim who she was and that passion for music, the way she loved her babies. Not one visual in this documentary will not make you cry when you see the way this woman looked at her kids. And I thought, God, I hope someone looks at me like that. Like, she was so in love with you guys while living this massive life with complicated, intimate relationships and all these things, but no question.
Boy, it really got to her.
You know, I would
powerful.
recommend you
All
see this
morning.
because you will be changed at the end. So I will now get to my question. But
Can I
bravo.
say one
Yeah.
thing to you? That is so deeply meaningful to me, because you would think, oh, it's a story about a Hollywood icon and living in the 50s, and you would think it's such a specific story. But what I know, and what I hope this movie provides, is that out of the personal comes the universal. And so even though it's my mother's story, and then it segues into my story, it's really a family story. And I think everybody, my hope is that everybody sees themselves. And the greatest compliment that I received, besides those, are somebody said, I went there to see a movie about your mom and your family, and I left there thinking about my family. And I
That's
was
the
like,
best.
bingo.
That's the best compliment.
And you gave us
The best.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the universality.
That's right.
Whether it's about, a 50s icon who had a pink house with a heart-shaped swimming pool or whatever.
But you gave us the Jayne Mansfield that she wanted to be. So you gave her what she never got to see the world get, and here it came from her daughter. And so
Wanted
bravo.
her to be seen.
Yes. And I will never look at her the same way again. I will never look at her the same way again.
Thank you.
So I commend you. I can't steal the whole segment, so I will let you go, but bravo.
No, but you had a question.
It was about women's portrayal. So you've lived a career where you got to change the way women were portrayed, but so much of your mom's story is the way people saw her or the way she had to be seen. Can you tell us about that?
That's right.
How it's changed.
Sorry, I want to make sure I understand your question.
So how your mom had to be
only
in
an
her
hour
career.
show.
Sorry, there's a lot of emotions here.
I
The way
have
your
prepared
mom,
2 monologues and 2 songs. We're going to have time for that, am I right?
the way stories have now become centered around women, like
Yes.
your role, as
Olivia Benson.
thank you, because I actually now only know her as this documentary. But your role and the way you got to be in your career is so different from what your mom was allowed to be. How has that changed over time?
Well, I think that so much of my career was also an unconscious rebellion to a reaction. And I remember, my father, who was so pivotal in my life, who always told me, nobody defines you, you decide. They don't tell you who you are, you tell them. And that is something that I really impart to my kids. And I want everyone to know that, especially every small child, is that so many times we end up the way we're reflected by our parents. And if you're not lucky to have parents that give you a big,
And a
huge...
dad who empowered you like
He
that.
empowered me. And so when I was young, because I think he saw how she listened maybe to the wrong people, and how, of course, he saw how people put her in a box, how the studio put her in a box, and she listened because she was, a girl from Texas and didn't know
She
better.
wanted it so much.
She
too.
wanted to be an actress, and that's what she was her whole life. That's what she dreamed of being, and they turned her into this, limited sex symbol and said, that's what you are. And she went, oh,
Well,
okay.
Marilyn Monroe was so popular, and they figured, let's have another one, right?
Well, and the studio was trying to keep Marilyn in check. And so that's what they did. Is they said,
Like a
careful,
backup
'cause there's
plan.
6 more in line.
Right.